My guest today is Charles Brewer. He's an artificial intelligence product and design leader who has worked in technology and media for over 2 decades. Today, he's helping organizations learn and use AI. But in fact, throughout his career, he's been guiding organizations through technology's biggest turning points, from the early days of web to mobile to social, and of course, to today's agent-driven AI. So the focus here for Charlie is on driving transformation, strategies for organizational change, deploying AI agents, designing workflows, and upskilling teams so that they can use AI with confidence. Ultimately, he's here to partner with companies for delivering business results, efficiencies, more revenue, and certainly more customers. We're so thrilled to have him here on the Artisan Podcast. Let's begin. Charlie, welcome to the Artisan Podcast. So excited to have you here with me.
Thank you, Kathy. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm happy to talk with you.
All right, wonderful. So I know that throughout your career, you have helped and guided organizations through some of the biggest technology changes and turning points, whether it be in the early days of web to where we are today with AI. So that's where I want to kick off our conversation, is knowing that we are in this very unique space, exciting and also maybe a lot of unknown in it, to really talk about AI and talk about just the business landscape out there. If a company wants to start implementing artificial intelligence, where should they start? What would be the first thing that you would recommend to them?
Yes, great question. And I agree with you. We are at the beginning of a whole new cycle of basically rebuilding not only the software of the last 30 years, but we are going to be rebuilding business itself on this layer of this new form of computing called artificial intelligence. And for your listeners of this podcast, artificial intelligence can take several forms. We have the inference form that can work with language very well and can summarize reports for us and can interpret data and can take our instructions and generate copy, often very well, especially if you prompt it very well. We have other AIs that can take a prompt or an image and generate new imagery and video in almost any form, anime, cinematic, fashion shoot, you name it. And then there are still more. But the point we're making is that what's important for people to focus on is that we have basically the ability to generate or use or direct digital workers, either as thought partners or as automated workflows or as extensions of what we do. And in almost any business, even in the creative businesses, we have the opportunity to speed up what we do. We have the ability to free up time by giving the more tedious or repetitive aspects of work, giving that to an AI agent or worker to do for us, and freeing up time for us to do new things or more strategic things. To finish answering your question, from a business standpoint, the C-suite, the board of directors of companies everywhere are hearing that there are incredible efficiencies that can be gained or activated by using AI. And that is true. We can, for many workflows, we can have them done automatically, done more quickly than a human could do it. And so there are time and resource efficiencies to be gained there. But this is And that's useful in one way, or in a business efficiency way. The promise of AI is that we will have capabilities and time to be more strategic, to attempt new work that maybe we thought was not possible for us because we didn't have the talent, we didn't have the time, and to turn our efforts into how can we make more revenue? Maybe we can explore some ideas to increase our revenue or retain customers through better, faster, more personalized customer service. Or perhaps now we can finally work on maybe going after a new set of customers that maybe we couldn't go after before because we didn't have the time or the expertise. In all of these areas, AI, if properly set up, harnessed, used, invested in, AI can offer us a lot of advantages.
Thank you for that. You said so many impactful things that I want to dive into a couple of them with you. You talked about AI being a work partner, a thought partner. I don't know if that was exactly your wording, but really to utilize AI as some sort of a collaborator. So I'd like to address a couple of things. One is that there's a lot of fear out there regarding AI replacing people's roles. That's not what I'm hearing you say. I'm hearing you say that it's going to help with efficiencies in the roles that people have. One question coming up is, what should people invest their training and upskilling in for their teams? And second question, you brought up if AI is used responsibly. If you could talk a little bit about that, because there's certainly, I've seen or I've heard about some of the misuses of AI out there as well.
All of these are great questions. Let me give you a model of, well, I'll say a few things first. Yes, universally, everyone hears the word AI efficiencies, and they are concerned that potentially AI will replace them in their jobs. And sadly, in the news, we are seeing various companies, like, say, Accenture most recently, and before that, Meta, basically saying, we're going to lay off a bunch of people. In the case of Accenture, they laid off 11,000 people with the excuse, I might say, that we can't train them fast enough on AI. And I think that is a dreadful thing to say because AI implementation can be learned quickly. Clearly, I'm burning bridges with Accenture, so I guess I'll never be working for them. What we have seen, though, and I think this is coming, is we're seeing that in cases where machine learning and artificial intelligence have already been incorporated into the job, we are seeing that there is more demand for the work than ever. It's a bit of a paradox. If AI is making a service or professional offer, if it's making it easier and faster to deliver, what happens is that the demand for that service or offer starts to go up. I'll quickly give you two examples. For quite a few years now, perhaps 10 years or more, in the field of radiology and interpreting X-rays, there have been platforms using machine learning, which is a more targeted and specific purpose kind of artificial intelligence that has been trained on X-rays. And rather than radiologists being replaced, the number of radiology jobs has gone up significantly, I think at least double. And that's because the machine learning platforms, the early form of or targeted form of, is allowing radiologists to carry out more X-rays. And the radiologist job becomes looking at multiple X-rays and interpreting or orchestrating, and that's an important word, orchestrating the results. So the upshot is there are more radiology jobs than ever. Similarly, we are seeing in the technology space, perhaps closer to the Artisan Creative client base, we are seeing prominent leaders like Aaron Levy at CEO of Box, noting that the senior developers at Box have now completely changed the way they work to use AI code assistants like Claude Code and other tools. And they are spending their time writing prompts and orchestrating the code production and then supervising and overseeing and reviewing the code output, and with the effect that skillful users and experienced developers are producing 10 times more usable code than they could before. Projects that were impossible because they didn't have time are now possible. And the demand for these coders who can use the tools is going up. And so that's a long way of saying, as Aaron Levy said, CEO of Box, that this dynamic is going to play out through every knowledge worker domain, where as we learn to use tools, I think there will be an opportunity to actually become even more in demand. We have this model of the T-shaped skill set, where I have the soft skills and I have one area, say UX design, where my skill set goes very deep. I think in an AI future, we would look to become M-shaped people, where perhaps we, with the augmentation and assistance of AI, we are able to become multi-skilled people. So in my case, UX design, product management, marketing, AI agent and strategy. I think this is our future, and we may find that that there will be more jobs.
Okay, that's very promising.
And let me just very quickly give you a model of this. And I'm going to switch to my Scribble Cam. So hopefully this will come through.
Okay, yep.
I've got my camera here. So how do people think about their jobs now? And I'll make this quick. Let's say this box represents the totality of a role. I am a UX designer, or I'm a copywriter. And down here at the bottom is the tactical, repetitive work that we do, and then going up to the strategic. And of course, people want to be strategic, and they really get bored by doing the tactical stuff over and over again. And so they feel like, okay, I've got my role here. And when I'm at my best, I'm operating up in the strategic realm. And then I've got all this repetitive tactical stuff that, in fact, takes less and less intelligence. From an efficiency standpoint, AI can help us do these tactical jobs. We can develop our own AI assistants and agents to do things like write a report or prepare a presentation, or we can basically offload that. Now, people think, oh, that's the end of my job then. Take away all this, give it to the AI, and my job is gone. That's, in my humble opinion, scarcity thinking. And the exciting thing is that with AI, we will save all this time. So we can take all this time and we can move it up here, and we can start thinking about what are some of the new things or additional things that I never had the chance to do that I might be able to do now with AI. So we can do more things, we can do more strategic things. And certainly in the case of AI and vibe coding, we can now prototype much more quickly and much more realistically. And so what happens is that my hope for everyone is for companies and leaders to think about, okay, we can invest in efficiencies where things like scheduling, reporting, and developing newsletters and all that kind of any deliverable that we produce can happen much more strategically, much more efficiently. But what we have is an opportunity for our roles to expand into much more strategic areas. And how do we get there? By investing in learning how to use AI and how to develop our own agents, either for ourselves, for our teams, or for our company. And speaking to knowledge workers and to leaders, this will require investment. And you would want an AI transformation professional or firm to join you, to lead you through this learning process, and also this kind of road mapping process of what can we tackle first to free up time and money, and then what can we do more strategically to help us increase revenue, gain more customers. If I had more time and resources, what could I do to wow potential customers? Like maybe I develop a custom app, maybe I develop a movie, maybe I develop 10 times more white papers than before. This is the kind of thing.
Okay, thank you. What I'm hearing is that actually, first of all, that graphic is awesome. I think to have the visual, I'm a visual learner, so to have the visual to follow it is fantastic. And also what I'm hearing in what you're saying is that utilized properly, AI can actually lead to capacity building.
I think that's the right way to look at it. I'll add, I think as a knowledge worker today, as a creative, I think the thing that we've seen with software developers is that basically the job description, also for product managers, the job description and the role has completely transformed in the last 12 months. And it now has AI at the heart of it. The jobs of the future of all types will have AI embedded in it. So any opportunity to learn AI offered by your company, I would jump at and maximize that with the idea or the expectation that as you become more capable with more and more AI tools, you become more valuable to your current employer and to future employers. I think it's inescapable, however, that some companies will say we can get rid of, say, our large portions of our customer service operation, people who are answering emails. Well, you don't have to answer those emails with humans anymore. You can get the AI to potentially write draft responses, and then you would have the humans review the response and send it on. It may be that there are some job reshufflings, but the insurance for career survival and career thriving going forward is to learn AI, ask your company to invest in AI training, either in beyond just using ChatGPT or building GPTs, but I think getting into building your own agents. And there are platforms that help you do that. But learning how to use AI, when to use AI, that's the key to your career continuing in the future.
Thanks for that, Charlie. And I'm going to date myself here because I remember when Artisan first started out and a lot of the talent that we represented, one, we had these gigantic portfolios that we had to lug around to show everybody's work. And two, I think there was a lot of paste up and mock-ups and so forth. And so when digital desktop publishing came about, like that whole thing just upended everything, right? It's like
Yes.
having websites and so on and so forth. And those who maybe were first afraid of it or really needed to touch and have the creative pieces be tactile and you could feel it and you could see it, versus those who adapted and moved everything to a digital portfolio, we could just see that shift then. I see the same shift today, obviously
Yes.
a little bit differently and impacting so much. But I do hear that it's really embedded in everything. And honestly, in creative with Adobe, with Photoshop, Illustrator, AI has been embedded in that for a long time anyway. So it's how do we embrace this and have this growth-minded or growth mindset around it in order to be able to elevate
Yes.
what it is that we're doing. Right?
Mm-hmm. I would say there have been several reports that have been released lately, research reports, in particular one from MIT and a national labor study. And unfortunately, it was saying that you might have heard the phrase tossed around that I think it's about 75% of all AI projects to date have not produced any return on investment.
Yes.
And there was a lot of concern as, oh, they're failing, it's failing. What the report is telling us is AI was introduced in a very haphazard way in many companies where leadership simply said, okay, let's buy a company-wide seeding for OpenAI access. And they just said, here, you have OpenAI, now use it. And not surprisingly, they weren't seeing any kind of really significant efficiency gains. And what it's saying is that what they did discover, even in the MIT report, was that companies that partnered with an AI transformation agency or with an AI transformation expert were, in fact, able to start seeing really significant transformations and efficiency gains because they would take the time to audit the current workflows, identify which ones will have the most impact at first, basically coming up with an AI roadmap, investing in training your people so that they can develop their own agents, and then tracking in terms of hours saved, then translating that into how much money are we saving, considering the fully loaded cost of an employee. Someone might say, I used to spend 6 hours a week preparing this report. Now I spend one. That's 5 hours a week saved times 50 weeks a year. Here is my savings. And that's repeated, say, 10 times across the company. All of a sudden, the ROI of AI starts to become very clear. So investment is required, and a transformation plan and an expert to guide you through it is what's going to work.
I'm so glad you said that because the investment and the training is so critical. So at Artisan, we have two sides of our business. One is the recruiting side of our business, and one is the talent development side of our business. And I cannot tell you how much the importance of developing your talent allows for the riches to come through later, but that investment in the infrastructure is important. Investment in the SOPs is important.
Yes.
Half the people don't even know what steps are required to go from A to B. So like just documenting all of that it's going to take time, and it's important to be able to invest that time and money into
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
So for you're a product designer, of course, I know you've also an author of the beautiful book right there behind you, Designing Interfaces. How has utilizing AI in product and UX design really impacted how you do what you do?
I can give you a couple of examples. I recently completed a project for a major higher education institution and went heavy into the research and strategy. And I ended up interviewing one-on-one close to 40 individuals. So that's a huge amount of transcript. But then I also deployed an online survey through SurveyMonkey to close to 2,000 people. So those were 2,000 responses, including free text response. As any UX researcher or product researcher can tell you, that is a lot of material to go through. And of course, the old process of trying to go through and tag this to find the commonalities was a weeks-long project, both in SurveyMonkey, but also in using any of the large language models. I happen to use ChatGPT. I was able to feed it the source material and have it come back with basically a tagged and prioritized listing of saying what are the most common issues that were raised in these interviews. So not only summarizing the 5-point scale questions, giving me an instant answer to that. I was using SurveyMonkey and ChatGPT to double check against each other as well as a spot check. But to finish answering your question, I was able to ask it about the free text response and about the transcript data and say, what are the most common issues? And can you give me exemplars of each? And it was able to do that within an hour or two. And that used to take weeks of work to boil down. People use different words to say the same thing. AI is outstanding at recognizing patterns like that, where the different phrasings are referring to the same thing and then giving me a count of how many times that was said across, say, almost 2,000 responses. So rapid and accurate summarization of large amounts of free text response or survey data was a game changer for me. Along with that, I packaged my report with some avatars that I very quickly created using, at the time, Midjourney, simply to produce some cartoon style versions of people, but I wanted a diverse set of people. And so using the cartoon style and asking to generate 5 people for me that I could use to visually set up this particular issue or topic, that was very quick and very impactful.
Amazing.
So that's an example of how I've used AI. Another area that has swept the profession is in product management. And product managers are notorious maybe for producing these enormous product requirement documents, sometimes producing product Bibles, these enormous documents that have research and strategy and competitive analysis. And here's what we should do. And here's all of our specifications. And nobody ever reads them. But they do have value in the AI age, because if you have a lot of structured data, research data, strategy, product requirements, you can feed that into a coding platform and it's extremely useful. But instead of writing these massive PRDs by hand, we are now able to generate PRDs using AI. The point I'm trying to make is that not only can we create documentation much more quickly, but if the modern PRD lives inside the LLM, or if it's an LLM object, then any person on the team can then query the PRD instead of having to read it. And so engineers can simply ask, what are the security requirements for this? Or what are the API requirements? Or do I need to secure any new API keys to make this product work? And it'll come back, yes, here it is, rather than having to search through the whole document.
What you're sharing is so complementary to the image that you drew, because if you don't have to spend time creating these product Bibles, and instead are able to have the capacity now to be more creative, to think about different marketing options, to re-strategize, to do all of that, it really is going to take away the mundane, if you will.
Yeah, weekly reports. I can have an AI agent look at all the emails that have come in and gone out, and look at the Slack channels for my project, and at the end of the week generate a status report and send it to everybody. And I build the agent once and it will do it for me. I think these are all transformations that AI can enable for us.
Wonderful. Thank you, Charlie, for just having so clearly defined it for us. I want to just wrap up and bring us back to the conversation of ethics and the ethical use, or as you said it, if it's used properly. What are some things, some basic things that people should be mindful of as they're looking at AI? And one of the things that comes to mind for me is with ChatGPT, and as you're feeding it information, what are some things that people can protect the information that they're sharing out?
Right. So there is a very important issue to keep in mind. These large language models, whether it's Claude or Gemini or ChatGPT or any of these others, they are available as a cloud service. I think for every account, whether it's enterprise or individual, I believe by default now, your data that you upload into these large language models is not used for training. But to be sure, in any corporation, any business, it's very important to keep customer data secure. It must not get outside or be available to people, but it's an issue and companies need to think about it. What I will say beyond this is many companies are opting to train and run their models internally. They're not going to put it in the cloud. They are going to set up their own NVIDIA chips, and they're going to run their models and keep their data internally. And that's all they don't have to worry about it getting out, so to speak, that way. A company needs to think about is what are the company behaviors that we want to guarantee? What's the code of conduct that we want to ensure that our AI agents adhere to? Say, for example, instructions to the AI to always be respectful and polite in its communications. Ethics and values will play out at the company and at the individual knowledge worker level.
Which really goes back to, ideally, all of this has been established for the company with their core values, with, even when they have people pick up the phone, how do you pick up the phone? How do you respond to a customer? How do you solve a problem for someone? Hopefully it's not a brand new thing that people are thinking about, but that it's been, to your point, part of their operating procedures.
Yes. And it turns out that as part of it, it's part of that larger strategic framework for implementing AI successfully. We've already mentioned training. That is a huge component. Discovery of workflows and prioritization of what's going to give you the best return on investment. So that kind of strategic planning is another. And then cybersecurity, data security is another area that needs to be thought through. And then finally, these guidelines, policies, and behaviors need to be written up, collected, and actually put into the AI agents as part of the full answer for how we're going to develop AI.
Okay. Yeah, and to add to that, I would say those guidelines from an employer brand standpoint needs to be developed even before we're talking about anything, because it will feed into everything in terms of how we're interviewing people, how are we onboarding people. It's going to just slow down in terms of what is after and what we're going to do. Charlie, thank you so much. This was so eye-opening and inspiring, actually, in that it's not this necessarily the scary thing out there, but that there's opportunity to embrace it and actually open up space for creativity, open up space for strategy.
Good. I'm glad we had this conversation. Like you, I am excited. We are entering a period of change, but this is an opportunity for new things, an opportunity for expansion. I think simply begin using and experimenting with the tools. And I think you, the listeners, will become just as excited as you and I are.
Beautiful. Where can people find you?
The best place to find me is on my personal website. I'm also on LinkedIn. I publish a newsletter there called Agents and Audiences, and you're welcome to find me on LinkedIn as well.
Beautiful. And I'll put those in the notes as well so people can access it quickly. And I'll put a copy or just put the information about your book out there as well.
Oh, yes. Buy my book.
Yes. There you go. We forget to talk about those things. All right, Charlie, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time to be here today.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you for joining the Artisan Podcast today. The podcast is brought to you by Artisan Creative, a recruitment and talent development firm with over 30 years of experience helping teams grow across multiple verticals. Follow us on social for more content on hiring, retention, building a growth-minded culture, and just some fun. We look forward to meeting you online.